Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. And in particular, we're going to talk about the Lost Mine of Phandelver. But first, I would like to point you to the opening scene or screen that you see, the Goblin King. We're talking about the Goblin King today. And I was thinking about Labyrinth and David Bowie. And of course, we all know David Bowie from the Labyrinth. And then we've got The Hobbit and the Goblin King from there. And when I saw the two variations, it just sort of struck home with me that really what we needed in The Hobbit was a dance scene. It would have made all the difference. I don't know that we needed a scrotum chin dance, but some sort of dance scene would have gone down really, really well. So, as I said, this is a Lost Mine of Phandelver Dungeon Master Guide, which means there is definitely going to be spoilers within this presentation. So if you are playing the game as a player, it is time to leave. If you are a Dungeon Master, stick around because we have a whole lot of really useful information for you. And today's topic on the Lost Mine of Phandelver is King Grol, who is the main leader of the Cragmaw Goblins, or more accurately, the Cragmaw Goblin tribe. And it consists of a whole lot of different goblinoid types, you might say. Where does this particular individual live? He lives in Cragmaw Castle. This is his stronghold. This is where he hangs out with all of his goblin horde. Not to say that they're always there all the time. Of course, they're doing their thing around that location, but the vast majority of his forces are located at this castle. Should you be stupid enough to go and venture there, you will find him with a fairly significant force, and of course it's full of traps and things like that. The thing about King Grol is he's the first time the players really have to deal with a significant threat who has the one individual they have been tracking down. King Grol has Gundren Rockseeker. He also has the map that Gundren Rockseeker made that shows the Lost Mine or Wave Echo Cave location or entrance, which is essentially what this whole story is all about, really. It's about Gundren, the mine, and that location. And finding that location is really the key thing behind everything. Now, what makes up the Cragmaw Goblin tribe? They are a bunch of marauding goblinoid or goblin hold tribes or groups that are scattered around. Some of them are rivals, so they're not actually they don't really like each other. They're kind of disorganized to a large extent. It's not like they hang around and they know exactly what they're going to do. And they run right through the area between Tribor Trail and the Neverwinter Woods. This is what makes up the Cragmaw tribes. But, of course, it's all very well having a group of goblins. You need somebody to lead them. And really, there's only one choice when it comes to that. There's only one chieftain that grudgingly they accept as their leader for the Cragmaw tribe. And that is King Grol. He's the only one capable of pulling it off. And why is that? Well, because he's fierce. He's an old battle-hardened bugbear. He's actually quite tough. He's quite strong. He might be old, but he doesn't play by everybody else's rules. And that's what really makes him stick out the most. King Grol rules the Cragmaws with pure intimidation and fear and threats. That's how tough this bugbear is. Now, King Grol has aged. He's a bit stooped. His shoulders are a bit stooped. His back is beginning to hunch over. But that doesn't really matter because it's King Grol. King Grol might be old, but he's still quite agile and actually quite strong. He's quite demanding and vindictive, even of individuals or members of his own tribe. And to make sure that he doesn't wind up getting his throat slit in the middle of the night by some of the goblins, because that's entirely possible, he has himself a pet wolf called Snarl, who also acts not only as his friend, or should I say trusted friend, because that's pretty much the only one he can trust. Snarl also acts as a sentry, particularly when he is sleeping at night and at other times during the day, but particularly at night. This is a wily king. He knows he needs to have some backup, and the wolf is what is his backup. Now, this sounds very similar to Clarg. You're thinking, hang on, didn't Clarg have a pet wolf called Ripper? And now, well, hang on, King Grol's got a pet wolf called Snarl. How do we make those two bugbears different from each other? Well, as it happens, there's only one way to do that, and that is to take away the wolf and replace it with some other creature. Now, that's totally up to you. That's outside of the parameters of the adventure itself, but you could do it if you wanted to, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. What would you replace it with, though? I think a warg would be a good choice, but it's quite a tough creature, a warg, and quite intelligent in its own right. So would the warg be controlling the Cragmaw tribe, or would King Grol be controlling the Cragmaw tribe? So it's really up to you to determine how that's going to work in your own adventure. Now, King Grol is also attended by a female drow called Verith. Now, Verith is actually a doppelganger in disguise temporarily. King Grol doesn't know that Verith is a doppelganger, but she's there for a particular reason, and that reason is to deliver a message. That message comes from the Black Spider, and it's been sent to King Grol, and essentially her job is to collect the prize, and the prize being the map and Gundren Rockseeker. For those of you who haven't figured it out, I'm sure you have. I'm sure it's not that hard to figure out. In fact, it's probably pretty easy. So Verith has come to collect Gundren Rockseeker and also the map that shows the entrance to Wave Echo Cave from King Grol. Once she's got that particular, those two prizes, that's going to be pretty much the end of their relationship. King Grol is not required after that, other than to keep pillaging the roadways, which he would have done anyway without the Black Spider asking him to do so. So it wasn't going to be a big issue, really. Now, one of the things you'll find is that the adventure sort of talks about there being a relationship between the two in terms of, Gundren Rockseeker and that map being acquired by the Cragmaw goblins, and really they're doing that for the Black Spider and Nesna, the Black Spider. But things have sort of developed a little bit since then. What has happened is King Grol is trying to sell the map to Verith rather than surrender it for the standard price that was originally agreed upon. What did you expect? It's a bugbear. He's tough. He knows how to negotiate. So King Grol and Verith are currently in negotiations trying to get a price for the Wave Echo Cave entrance map. And as for Gundren Rockseeker is going to be killed pretty shortly as soon as Verith has had a chance to talk to Gundren, find out what he knows and who he has actually told about the location of Wave Echo Cave. Once Verith has that information, then really Gundren has no further use to her or the Black Spider, and King Grol really doesn't see Gundren or the map as any other use to him other than money and power over somebody else. Makes perfect sense to me. So King Grol, what happens if King Grol is warned by his Cragmaw goblins in the castle? He holds Gundren Rockseeker hostage, and he is ready and quite prepared to kill the dwarf if the PCs don't back off and surrender. Now, when I say back off and surrender, what I really mean is if they decide to play hardball or get tricky with this bugbear, it's not going to go down well. It's not going to go down well at all, because the only thing that Gundren is worth is essentially a little bit of cash as far as King Grol is concerned. So he is not only going to be, in the very first scene, going to be saying, drop your weapons and surrender. And if they don't do that, that's it. Gundren's throat is probably going to get slit and that map is going to get burnt. So it's important that the players understand what the stakes are. They are going to be forced into a situation where they have to make the choice whether they allow Gundren Rockseeker to die or they take down King Grol and his forces. Because if they don't make that choice, they can't have both. In all likelihood, unless they're incredibly smart and clever and can do this, get Gundren out without anybody noticing what's going on, Gundren is probably dead meat. Now, in my own adventure, I found that the players were mostly dungeon masters, and the combined brain power of all those dungeon masters and the fact they were about level 3 or 4 when they tackled this location meant that, as a result, they did a phenomenal job and pretty much made a mess of the whole situation. And, you know, a lot of individuals died, but things worked out pretty well for them overall. And I was quite nice about it. What I decided was that even though a Gundren Rockseeker, and I probably wouldn't do that again, even though Gundren Rockseeker is an NPC, if the final blow was struck, I decided that Gundren Rockseeker wasn't dead and there would be the opportunity to have death saving throws take place. And I found the players really wanted that. It's up to you how you decide to do that. You do not have to do it that way. That's just what I did in my game when I was running it. But I feel like now that I've run the adventure a couple of times, that if I were to do it again, I probably wouldn't make that choice. What I would do is I would force my players to have their characters make the hard choice between surrendering to King Grol and not losing Gundren Rockseeker right then and there, or they kill King Grol or attack King Grol and his forces and they lose Gundren Rockseeker. That's just how I would see it. King Grol is really smart. He's much more ruthless than Clarg. He's near impossible to deceive and harder to scare. That's how dangerous this particular individual is. King Grol has a treasure under his bed mattress, and there are details on page 41 of the adventure for those of you who want to go and check it out. I believe it's nothing super fantastic in terms of a take, but for those of you who are interested in the contents of that treasure hoard under his bed, it's not hard to find really, and I wouldn't even bother having them make a perception check or anything like that. If they look underneath the mattress and they say, look, I'm going to look through the whole location under the mattress, just let them have it. So there is a stitched leather sack containing 220 silver pieces. There are 160 electrum pieces. There are 3 potions of healing, which of course they might find quite useful later on. And it also has Gundren's map of Wave Echo Cave. So there are, that's the take. Now you can add whatever additional treasure items you would like to that sort of stack if you want. You don't have to. Okay, here's the big problem I find as I was going through this and thinking down sort of about how all of these characters play together and how it's going to work. One of the things that popped into my mind was, how do I make King Grol different from Clarg? Because they're both bugbears, they're both in charge of a fairly sizable goblin horde. Obviously King Grol has more and his location is more fortified, but it has a lot of holes in it. It's not like it's a complete castle. There is damage to it. So how do I make King Grol different from Clarg so that it doesn't seem like it's the same character being played again? Now, of course, you could use voices if you wanted to, and I'm not really into using voices myself. What I decided was I needed to play King Grol vastly more lethal and dangerous and a lot harder to deal with than Clarg. Clarg is a newbie, King Grol is an old veteran. And what I sort of came to the conclusion was that characters trying to intimidate King Grol is all but pointless, because nothing scares this bugbear. He's dealing with a huge horde of goblinoid tribes who at any moment one of them might decide to try to take him down, should the opportunity arise. He's constantly dealing with it. He's not really afraid of anything whatsoever, and in fact he's old enough that even death would probably not scare him in the slightest. Deceiving King Grol is also completely pointless, if you ask me, because he trusts nobody anyway. So why would he believe anything that is told to him unless he knows the facts are correct anyway? So deceiving King Grol, somewhat pointless because he trusts nobody, and he's going to betray the player's characters anyway, no matter what takes place. So I sort of thought, yeah, that's what's going to define King Grol. Also, King Grol answers to absolutely no one. No one at all. Not even Nesna the Black Spider. He might be doing a job for the Black Spider, and he might not know that the Black Spider true name is Nesna, and I think that's probably what's taking place. I don't think he necessarily knows that the Black Spider's real name is Nesna. But that's really up to you. You can change these things as much as you like. What I see is that, given the situation with that whole dynamic, dealing with King Grol should be really, really tough. And I think this picture sort of highlights to me what is likely to happen. The players are going to be seen by some of the other goblins or hobgoblins or bugbears in the castle, and all those forces are, one of those forces are going to run off, tell everybody else in the castle. King Grol is going to know what's taking place, bring all of his forces into one location and lay a horrible ambush for the players. So King Grol is much more likely just to ambush the party with all of his forces, kill Gundren if they don't surrender all of their weapons so that they can be captured, or that King Grol is probably going to just kill the characters. Now, remember, you don't have to kill the characters. What King Grol could do is sell the player's characters to Nesna, the Black Spider, for an additional fee, on top of the fee he was going to get for capturing Gundren Rockseeker and providing that map to Wave Echo Cave as well, and making sure it didn't fall into the hands of somebody else. Now, it's not required that the information that Gundren Rockseeker has be passed to the Black Spider and his ambassador Verith. It's not important that Nesna the Black Spider gets the map, because the Black Spider Nesna already knows the location of the cave and has dealt with the other two brothers that Gundren Rockseeker has. So it's about making sure nobody else knows where that location is or how it's going to play out in the future. It's much easier to deal with a location if you have no competitors, correct? And that's where I think it sort of rests. Now, as for the stat block for King Grol, it's not your standard bugbear stat block. It's not even the bugbear chief stat block. So you're going to take the standard bugbear stat block. He only gets one attack. I don't feel that placing him in the front to do all the attacks is actually the first thing you want to do. I would have him further at the back and his forces in front to help soften things up. King Grol is probably going to be the one who would be threatening Gundren Rockseeker, or his current sort of attendee, the drow, Verith. That would be my sort of assessment of that. You're just going to change the hit points. It really goes over basically what sort of changes you would make on King Grol, which is essentially just an increase in hit points and nothing else. Now, there are a couple of questions people might have with regard to how King Grol will interact with the rest of the story. I don't believe that King Grol cares in the slightest what happens to Phandalin. I don't even think that King Grol cares about taking control of Phandalin. It's not the sort of thing he needs. It's unimportant. He already has more than enough to deal with his own tribe, and so getting into the logistics and politics of dealing with a human or a civilized town would be just strange. It wouldn't make sense. It's very un-bugbear-like-ish, if you ask me. What about the Cult of the Dragon? What about the cultists that are in Thunder Tree? Would he have any link to any of them? I don't believe so. I think that if you wanted to create a link between the Cult of the Dragon, who are currently in negotiations or trying to get up the courage to negotiate with the dragon there in Thunder Tree, I don't think that King Grol has anything or any part to play in that. Would King Grol have anything to do with the Red Wizards of Thay and Hummin Cost, who is at Old Owl Well? No, I don't believe that he's got any interaction with any of them whatsoever. Would King Grol have any interactions with the dragon Venomfang? I believe no. One factor I think that stands out is that Venomfang is fairly new to the area, and so unless you are sort of stupid, you might go and sort of try to seek out a dragon, but that's the sort of thing that players' characters do. It is not the sort of thing that a wily, smart chief does. And he's smart enough to know that dealing with a dragon is bad news, even a young one. What you do have to contend with is the possibility of the orc pack that is currently on patrol returning. Now, you can have them return just as things are starting to unwind or fall apart for King Grol, or you could have them show up when King Grol has been dealt with, or when King Grol has captured or killed some of the players' characters. Totally up to you. That is certainly one area I think out of the entire adventure that you certainly need to consider how that's going to play in with King Grol. And as I said, King Grol trusts nobody, so it's entirely possible that you might find yourself in a situation where there's the interplay between a number of different characters in the same location. But how complicated do you want to make that is totally up to you. So that's everything I have to talk about with regard to King Grol, most of which there's plenty of information in the adventure if you ask me. I don't think you need to read between the lines too much. I think it's all pretty much there. So if you found this useful or informative, please share and like the video. If you're not already subscribed to my channel and you like this sort of thing, I do this sort of thing pretty much every single week. So subscribe, hit the bell button to be notified when I go live and when I publish new videos. If you want to support my channel, you supported my channel by watching this video, and I have hundreds more, and there's a whole series on the Lost Mine of Phandelver, and you're welcome to go and check them out and see what you think. Disagree with me, agree with me, or find something useful. There's often a lot of videos that are sort of very keyed into the sorts of things that people tend to ask. Now, I don't do Patreon, but down in the description I have affiliate links to the book depository and Amazon where you can buy stuff online. I get a small commission, you pay exactly the same price, just go through the link, buy what you want. You don't have to buy the thing I've linked to. You know the story, it's all that sort of thing. And that supports me continuing to do videos like this. And as it happens, it has really worked quite well for me. Now, if you have questions, feedback, if you want to disagree with me, if you want to say hi, if you have any kind of questions whatsoever, I'm going to deal with that in the live chat right now. So don't go away, don't run off. If you're not part of the live chat, that is what the comment section's all about. You can type in your questions and your feedback and whatever you want to ask or say down there. And I generally respond to most of my comments. So there's a good chance you will get a response, which is always nice, isn't it? Okay, now, that is where we finish, and I'm going to say, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.